Welcome to Nutrition 1 as part of Animal Science 1101 Introductory Animal Science course. In this video, we will have an introduction to nutrition, classification of nutrients, and then look specifically at water as a nutrient. We will be discussing the nutrient requirements of different domesticated animal species. What is a nutrient? Well, a nutrient is part of what we feed animals that aids in the support of life. We classify nutrients into these six different categories. So, class of nutrients, water, and notice we've got a lot of chemical symbols here. So, nutrition has a lot to do with chemistry. So, water has two oxygens, or one oxygen and two hydrogens. Carbohydrates are made up of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Fats as well, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, just in different ratios and a different physical configuration. Proteins also have that carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, but also nitrogen. Proteins on average 16% nitrogen. There's a few amino acids within the protein that contains sulfur, so a small amount of sulfur. And then amino acids can be phosphorylated, so we might have phosphorus that comes along with some of those proteins. Minerals, 7 macrominerals. In macrominerals, relatively large amounts measured as a % of our ration. And then we have microminerals, just trace amounts, but necessary for life, measured in parts per million in our ration. And then we have the vitamins, fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, and water-soluble vitamins, the B vitamins, and then also vitamin C, although humans and guinea pigs are the only species that require vitamin C. Vitamins are measured in international units, or IU. So what are international units? It's the amount of a substance based on measured biological activity rather than weight. So vitamins many times come in different forms. And the animal requires so many international units for biological activity rather than a specific weight for a vitamin. Nutrition is chemistry, and not a bad idea to just kind of learn these different chemical symbols for all these different elements which are important in domestic animal nutrition. So we're going to start out here with one of the more important nutrients, although they're all important, but water is a nutrient that we need every day. Generally, it's the least expensive nutrient, especially in Minnesota. We tend to have abundant water, sometimes a surplus of water, but many times good quality, clean water may be lacking for our animals. It's the most abundant nutrient in animal's body. An animal's body may be made up of 70% water. And deficiency can cause death faster than other deficiencies, especially in hot weather, but even in the wintertime where it may be 0 degrees out. So function of water, transportation of nutrients and excretions, chemical reactions within the cell, body temperature regulation, maintains the shape of body cells, and it lubricates and cushions, joints, and organs, just to name a few of the major functions. Just through this kind of interesting slide up here, it's water that's for sale in a grocery store at slightly elevated price, I think. interesting little label on the bottom. It's non-GMO water. Water is just H2O. There's no genetics in water. It'd be impossible to genetically modify water. So where do animals get their water from? Well, naturally we think of drinking water, but that might only supply 50% of the water that an animal intakes. So moisture and feed for that daily ration can vary greatly. Lush pasture, for example, can be up over 80% water. And then metabolic activity within the body, and we'll see some examples of that later on in nutrition, but we create water as we metabolize some of our foodstuffs. So that's where we get the water from. Where do we lose water? Well, in urine, and it can vary greatly. Some animals urinate a lot more than others. Feces. Swine feces contains more water than poultry feces. Then we have respiration. We inhale oxygen, carbon dioxide, and water is exhaled. So you can certainly see that on a cold day as you exhale outside. You'll see the water vapor in your breath, and we do exhale quite a bit of water. And then, of course, you know, if it's a really hot day and you're working hard or the animals are working hard, you can lose quite a bit of water through perspiration as your body tries to keep cool. It is very important that animals have fresh, clean water available at almost continuously. Factors affecting water consumption, age, and size of the animal, obviously performance of the animals. If the animals are working hard, definitely they require more water. Environmental temperature and humidity. Yes, the hotter it is, the more water is required by animals. Increased humidity will heat stress the animals as well. More water. The water content of the feedstuffs. Dietary factors. If there is a increased salt in the feed, the animals will require more water. So the urinary system, as we mentioned, cattle lose a lot more water in the urine than birds will. But there's differences between animals, and we can rank them as maybe cattle lose the most, cattle and pigs, goats and sheep require less. Definitely, if we're talking about camels, they need less water to get the urinary system working quality. And then affecting consumption, if it's not available, obviously animals drink less. If the water quality is bad, they're going to drink less. Water deficiency symptoms, well, first thing you got to notice is decreased performance, decreased feed intake, and as far as decreased performance, we may be talking about slower growing animals, animals producing less milk for their young or for sale relative to dairy cattle. The animals are not going to be able to work as hard. They may appear depressed. And next we have a couple of symptoms of dehydration, sunken eyes, or decreased elasticity of the skin. So one way to check for dehydration is just to pull up the skin. If it remains tented and does not return to its original shape, the animal may be dehydrated and needs water badly. If you notice animals drinking urine or blood, mud, basically animals should be drinking good, clean water at all times. So what we have here is approximate water consumption for mature animals, and this would be a maintenance requirement. So you can see it does vary a lot by species. Poultry generally require less water than some of our mammals. But if, let's say we've got a dairy cow that's lactating, well, a dairy cow can produce 10 to 14 gallons of milk a day. And generally we say that it takes 3 to 5 gallons of water consumption for every gallon of milk produced. So a dairy cow will consume up to 50 gallons of water a day. So we need to make sure that you have a lot of good clean water available at all times. As I said, water is one of the cheapest nutrients, but if animals are not performing up to what expectations, one of the first things you should do is check the water supply. The water tank may need to be cleaned out. You could have problems with stray voltage can be preventing your animals from drinking enough water. So, and in a lot of large livestock units, they may have water meters for the individual pens, and check that water consumption daily. If water consumption is down, it might indicate we have a health problem with the animals. So that concludes our little video on introduction to nutrition and water consumption.